China caps every citizen at $50,000 a year in foreign currency, a hard rule that applies to 1.4 billion people. Yet a U.S. Congressional Commission once estimated that $202 billion in dirty money passed through one border city every year, a city smaller than Manhattan. Macau wasn't just a gambling hub, it was a pressure valve, engineered to let capital blast through China's financial wall. This is the story of that valve, how it worked, who built it, and what happened when Beijing finally turned the handle. Imagine a wall. China builds one every day around its financial system. Every citizen gets a tiny door, $50,000 a year in foreign exchange, no questions. Need more? You'll need written safe approval, a process designed to say no. And if you try to avoid the system and just carry cash, the daily export limit is 20,000 yuan, about $3,200. That's barely enough for a luxury dinner, but China's wealthy needed to shift millions, for foreign property, investments, or simply a rainy day fund abroad. The official path was a dead end. The tension was palpable, a rising middle class and flush businessmen wanted to move money out, but the state kept the door almost shut. They needed a pressure valve, and they found one a stone's throw away. And right next door, Macau sat as a separate customs territory with its own pataka, its own financial system, and one enormous loophole, legal gambling. The Gongbei border crossing, connecting Zhuhai to Macau, is the busiest port in China, 134 million crossings in 2018 alone. Every one of those journeys was a chance to release the pressure. Macau had built the perfect valve. Macau is the only patch of Chinese soil where casino gambling is legal, a colonial legacy turned financial opening. But the real story isn't the mass floor, it's the junket. Junket operators are licensed middlemen who bridge the border's financial gap. They extend huge amounts of gambling credit to mainland high rollers inside Macau's casinos, lending chips in Hong Kong dollars or patakas, completely outside the mainland banking system. The loan never touches China's capital control ledger. Then, critically, they collect the debt back on the mainland, where gambling debts are legally unenforceable, using their own networks and sometimes underground banks. In doing so, they made a mockery of the $50,000 annual cap and the daily cash limit. A single VIP room could turn over more money in a night than a provincial bank branch handles in a year. At its peak in 2013, Macau had 235 licensed junkets, not a few rogue operators but an industrial-scale release valve deliberately built into the border's architecture. Junkets didn't appear by accident, they were a deliberate feature of Macau's gaming expansion, and for China, they became the perfect financial escape hatch. But credit alone doesn't put stacks of high-denomination chips in a gambler's hands. This is where Macau's Pawnshops entered the picture. Walk down Avenida do Almeida Ribeiro and the neon signs offer cash for gold. The scheme was deceptively simple. A mainland player buys a luxury watch or diamond ring using an ordinary UnionPay bank card, China's domestic payment network. Minutes later, they sell the item straight back to the same shop for cash, paying a small commission. Often the jewelry never left the glass case. This became so routine that reported single purchases reached $1.5 million. It was a cash-out machine disguised as a jewelry trade. But the creativity didn't stop there. Police repeatedly busted rings that employed fake UnionPay point-of-sale terminals, devices tucked away in VIP rooms or bogus stores, programmed to make a $1,000,000 casino advance look like a sofa purchase. The fake retail receipt was clean enough to fool auditors. In 2017, authorities arrested suppliers of these bogus terminals. By 2018, Macau finally ordered all UnionPay terminals removed from pawnshops. But by then, the pipe had flushed through billions, and the system had already perfected its methods. The scale is difficult to grasp. A 2013 U.S. Congressional Commission estimated that $202 billion a year in ill-gotten funds were funneled through Macau. To put that in perspective, that's nearly half of the entire global casino industry's win at the time, all squeezed through a city of 33 square kilometers. The engine was VIP Baccarat. In 2019, it alone made up 46% of Macau's casino revenue. And one name epitomized the system: Sun City. After boss Alvin Chow was arrested, court records detailed a parallel betting universe, 824 billion Hong Kong dollars, about 105 billion US dollars, in under-the-table bets over 8 years, hidden from regulators and tax. Meanwhile, Chinese state media reported that Suncity's online sportsbooks, hosted on Southeast Asian servers, took over 1 trillion renminbi a year in bets from mainland clients in 2019, roughly $150 billion. And zoom out further, the Institute of International Finance estimated total capital flight from China at $676 billion in 2015 alone. Macau was not a side exit, it was the main artery. Then the politics shifted. In November 2021, Macau police arrested Alvin Chow. By January 2023, he was sentenced to 18 years for fraud, running a criminal syndicate, and illegal betting. Suncity's VIP rooms, once the engine of the outflow, went dark overnight. The crackdown quickly spread. From a peak of 235 licensed junkets in 2013, the numbers fell to 36 in 2023, and by January 2024 only 18 remained. What had once been a tolerated pressure release was now branded a national security risk. Regulators had been tightening for years, Union Pay terminals were pulled from Pawnshops in 2018, and police had swept through fake POS rings. Now the state went after the junkets themselves. The numbers hit the floor. Macau's gross casino revenue sank to 86.8 billion patakas, about $10 billion US dollars, in 2021, the pandemic trough. But even as tourism revived, the structure had changed permanently. VIP baccarat's share of revenue shrank from 46% in 2019 to roughly 23 to 25% by 2024. The border's main financial drain had been surgically cut. For the first time in decades, the flow of illicit cash through Gong Bay dipped dramatically. But capital, like water under pressure, finds new channels. The Asian Racing Federation estimated that, as Macau's junket pipes were squeezed, illegal online gambling sites now siphon about 1 trillion renminbi, $145 billion, out of China each year. The model is a direct descendant of Suncity's playbook, a slick mobile interface, live dealer studios streamed from the Philippines.